What is going on YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time here, this is Pelfrey. This is documentation of my Red Sea Reefer 250, give or take 65 gallons total water volume. Camera may be a little cockeyed there, but just have to bear with me here. I've had multiple people ask about my Gyre schedule, so I'm going to do a video on that real quick. Not really going to go into the full details on how to program this in advanced mode. CJ on CJ's Aquariums did a very good job explaining how to program the Gyre controller. So I am running two 230s on a 3-foot tank. The advanced controller, which is this piece right here, will run 2 pumps. So that's another added bonus if you decide to go with a Maxspect Gyre on your tank. So right now, it's probably kind of hard to see, but we are on 6. So I don't remember exactly how many presets in here, but Pump A is running in a gradual pulsing mode, and Pump B is running in a random mode. So we can go through the schedule real quick. We'll start at A. So you're gonna have to excuse me because my screen, for whatever reason, is kind of messed up. Start at 000. We got Pump A running on a random mode up to 50%, and Pump B doing the same thing, random mode up to 50%. From there we go to A2, which at 3 a.m. Pump A runs constant at 40%, Pump B runs constant at 50%. Then we go to A3, we have Pump A running at 50% random mode, Pump B doing a gradual pulse of 50%. We go to 4. So at 7 a.m. we have Pump A running constant mode at 30%, Pump B running constant mode at 60%. Here we go on. So at 7:05 we run a pulsing mode on Pump A. Pump B will run anti-sync mode to Pump A. So I have a constant mode from 7 to 7:05 just to stir up some stuff inside the tank. The next mode is a gradual pulsing mode going up to 60% on Pump A. Pump B is random mode up to 50%. And we go to 7. We have constant mode at 40% on Pump A and constant mode on Pump B at 50%. That lasts for 10 minutes. Then we go to 8. This is the 8th preset. We have a pulsing mode at 40% on Pump A, and then we have Pump B running random at 40%. And that should be all of them. So you can have up to I think 24 presets on here. Hopefully I didn't go over that too fast. This is a Red Sea Reefer 250 again. This is a 3-foot tank from left to right. On the Gyre pump, on the controller itself, this is Pump A and this is Pump B. And it is worth noting that the Gyre pumps probably do require more maintenance than any other pump. You will notice that 60% running for 3 or 4 months without any maintenance is going to drastically reduce the amount of power or water the pump is pushing. So just keep in mind that if you're running it at 60%, you lose power and you increase the percentage on the pump. Whenever you clean the pump, you're going to want to drop it back down because once you clean it, it does pick up the water movement again, if you will. So for example, this is one of my Gyre pumps after a couple months. It's pretty hard to see in the video. but you can see that it has coralline algae built up on it all over the pump. And this is the other side that I've just taken off last week and ran in just vinegar and water. I didn't take it apart. I ran it in vinegar and water, and I scrubbed it real good. In an effort to get a little bit better representation of the pumps, you can see I've turned the pumps off, and this is pump B, which is on the left side of the tank. And if we look over to the right side of the tank, this is pump A. So again, I've ran this pump in hot water and vinegar, scrubbed it with a brush a little bit, and just threw it back on the tank. I did not take it apart. This pump is going to come off the tank pretty soon, and I will again just run it in vinegar and water and throw it back on the tank. So the good thing is, what I do is I just unplug, so for instance, I'll unplug this from the advanced controller. I'll pull it off of the tank, I'll put it in a bucket, then I will plug it back into the advanced controller, and I'll just let it run, in its normal path. I may switch it to a constant mode just to get some good water flow through the bucket, but that's all that I'll do. And then whenever I'm done, I'll just unplug it from the Gyre controller, scrub it off a little bit, dip it in some fresh water. The vinegar is not going to hurt the system at all, but dip it in some fresh water and throw it back on the tank. So this is pretty cool. Right in the middle of me discussing this, I do have an air stone plugged up to generate some bubbles, and I have it to come on a couple times through the day and then in the evening. And as you can see, that process has just begun. So if you, on a side note, if you don't know anything about bubble scrubbing, it there's really no negative effects, except for I do have some pretty good sized bubbles coming through. As you can see, I have some bubbles settling here. They pop and they get the top of the glass a little dirty, but I'll take care of that myself. I got no issues with that. So basically the bubble scrubbing the bubbles will go into the display. Whenever the pumps are on, the bubbles will get spread around. They'll lift things to the surface and they'll get sucked down into the overflow. Figured I would go ahead and take the opportunity to show you the bubble scrubbing without the Gyre pumps on. I'll go ahead and turn the Gyre pumps on. We'll get some flow going through the tank, and that will probably give you a better representation of the bubble scrubbing in general and just the flow in the tank. I know that a lot of people say that they're not really fans of, not particularly the Gyre pumps, but any pump that has a wire in the tank. Quite honestly, that's the least of my concerns personally. Since I am running two of the pumps, I do have a wire coming off the tank here and a wire coming off the tank there, but you can't even see it. Of course, it may be a little bit of an eyesore, but for the most part, I don't really believe that it is an eyesore. Quite honestly, you can see just right here the dry side magnet on the Gyre pump, and I prefer that to be up higher, just because if I was running any of the Vortex pumps on the tank, my kids would be able to reach them, because you can't put them the Vortex pumps close to the surface, otherwise it'll start sucking in air. So just a personal opinion, personal preference. A lot of people run Gyres and Vortex. They run Tunze and Gyres, Tunze and Vortex, the Neptune wave pumps. It's personal preference. If you don't mind doing the maintenance on the Gyre pumps, I say go with the Gyre pumps. The programming is very simple. I've had zero problems whatsoever out of the pumps or the controller, so I can't say anything negative about the product itself. I've had good luck with it, and especially with this being a short tank, I really do appreciate the fact that I can put the Gyre pumps up so high in the tank. In one of the last videos that Bulk Reef Supply did, they actually talked about the Gyre pumps and the settings that they're using on their BRS 160 tank. I think that they're using the ice cap module to control their Gyre pumps with the Neptune AFS, and I don't have any experience with that particular module. It might be something that I look into in the future, just because it would be really nice to be able to control them from the Apex dashboard instead of having to get into the controller, just because my controller's in an equipment cabinet that I never ever get into unless I absolutely have to. But with that being said, I mean, you know, whenever you have your set points and your programs or your gyres set to however you choose, you don't typically get in there and change them very much. I may make some modifications to my pumps just because the one on the right is clean now. The one on the left will be clean here within the next week or so. So I'm probably gonna have to reduce the flow on them. But I want the pumps to do a couple different things. I want them to work against each other as far as pushing water towards each other, but I also want to have them work with each other and create a gyre effect in the tank. So in my opinion, creating random flow is the best bet, and that's kind of why and how I've set up the gyre pumps in the fashion that I have. I don't want the same movement throughout the whole tank. I want that to be changed. And the reason why I'm doing a constant mode is because I want to kick up as much stuff on a sand bed and the rocks, whatever, just as much stuff in the display that I can, and get it sucked into the overflow. Now, I don't run any mechanical filtration, so whatever gets sucked into the overflow may end up back in the display. Chances are it's going to get in the sump and stay in the sump, and that's fine by me. I would rather have it in the sump than in the display. Noise. Noise level is always important, unless you have your tank set up in a basement where nobody is, or just simply somewhere that you don't qualify as a living space. And the noise is usually on top of the list when it comes to equipment. And it's the same for me. This tank is in my living room. I need and I want for the noise to be at a minimum. So the thing to remember is, at one point I ran a MP40 WQD on this tank with one of the gyre pumps. The MP40 was 100% quiet. Didn't matter what speed you're in the pump at. The Gyre 230s do put off some noise. From what I've read, apparently the 250s are dead silent, but for some reason the 230s do generate some noise. So it's something to consider when you're putting this in your living space. Now, I should say that whenever I put the 230s on the tank, the noise was, I wouldn't say obnoxious by any means, but it was loud, it was noticeable. That noise did reduce over time, so I would say that the pumps, you know, quote unquote, broke in. So either a couple of things now, they've either gotten a little bit quieter, or we've just kind of got used to them. The noise for me is, I do want my equipment to be quiet, but at the same time, with the kids running around and all that stuff, you typically won't hear any equipment on the tank, just because of all the noise being generated from the kids and their toys and Mickey Mouse and anything else that's playing on the TV. So it's definitely something to consider. The higher you run the 230s, the louder they will get, and it just depends on what you're looking for. Again, for me personally, I'm going to accept noise level for the simple fact that I can have the gyre pump so close to the water surface. The tank is, I think, 21 inches tall. The stand's 34 inches. So, you know, my kids can't quite reach this magnet yet. But if I had an MP40, it would be in the middle of the tank, and my kids would be able to reach it, especially if they brought something to stand on. Also, if they were to grab the gyre magnet and the pump fell in the tank, unfortunately, the pump's going to continue to run. And it's probably going to do some damage to some corals. It's going to blow some sand around. It's going to go through all that. But if I had Vortex pumps on here and they pulled the dry side off, well, the pump's going to fall into the water, which means I got to stick my hand in the water, which I try not to do. So I don't want to make this a Vortex versus Gyre video. I've done that video before when I owned both the pumps. I'm just giving you my personal opinions and why I chose and like what I like. So it is definitely something to consider. If noise is something that you must have at a bare minimum, if you're going to run the Gyre pumps, especially the 230s at a lower speed, then I still say go for it. If you plan on running them at 100%, you might want to look at a different brand of pump. But again, I can deal with the noise because I can have the pump so high on the tank. I think it's probably been enough rambling on at this point about the Gyre pumps and how I have them configured. Hope this has been helpful. Hope this has been beneficial. Again, if there's anything that you would like me to discuss on my particular system, please leave it in the comment section below. Be sure to check out the website, pelfrey.net. I have links to all the equipment below in the description that I use personally. You can also find these on my website, again, pelfrey.net. I do appreciate you stopping by and following along on this journey with me. I am excited about some warm weather. We still got some time until the weather does get warm, but I've been eyeballing a couple fish, and I'm gonna wait until probably March, middle of March or so before I order them. So stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.